Hey dads, and welcome back to another episode of the Fit Data Club podcast. My name is Jason Barrett, and today what I want to talk to you guys about is one of the key things that will help you get results in every area of your life, but not only get results, keep results long term. And I find it's definitely one of the things that a lot of people, in every area of life, don't do enough of. And we've harped on about it a little bit, but I kind of wanted to make it its own episode because it does kind of cover off on every area when it comes to your training, your discipline, your consistency, your eating, when it even comes to things like your relationship, your work, your performance, all the stuff that really matters in life can be affected by this one thing. And for me, that one thing is intentional reflection. And this serves a couple of purposes for me. There are a lot of guys out there and a lot of people out there that struggle with mental health. And a lot of the times, the reasons why we struggle with mental health is obviously like a myriad of different reasons why people struggle with mental health. It's not just like a one thing that affects everyone. But when it comes to mental health, we often, we're very good at beating ourselves up. And a lot of the times, the reasons why we beat ourselves up is because we really make big, broad generalizations about the things that we've done and then therefore what that means about who we are as a person. And I'm sure some of you guys have done this before where, you've gone on a diet or you've done a program or whatever, and you've missed a couple of days, or, you've eaten out or you've had a couple of drinks and then you've gone, oh, I fucked it. Oh, I can never stick to a diet. I'm so shit at this. Like I'm always going to be fat or whatever. It's like, bro, it was just one weekend. It was like, 6 extra beers than you would have normally wanted to have. Sure, not ideal, but not the end of the world. But we often generalize these things and they can cause us to go down into a little bit of a spiral because we lose perspective. And the reason why people hold on to past negative experiences and stuff that's happened to them in their past, and because this is fundamentally what it is, stuff happens in your past. We take meaning from that. We take that meaning and we apply it to who we are today. Dad never told me I was good enough, or mum was never around, so I felt like I had to fend for myself, and all these other things. Whatever happened in your childhood, right? They're the building blocks for our current experience, and because of those building blocks, that determines sort of the way we think about things a lot of times today. Oftentimes we either become just like our parents or we become the opposite of them, depending on how we felt we were raised. So when it comes to dealing with the negative loop and spiral of that self-talk, you've got to be able to take the learnings away from what you've done. A lot of times people either want to completely hide from the feeling because they're worried it will bring up more stuff. Like fundamentally, as humans, we don't want to feel not good enough. We don't want to feel like we aren't worthy. We don't want to feel like we're not good enough. That's a really core thing. And by not doing the things that we wanted to, sometimes that makes us feel not good enough, right? And sometimes that is the feeling. However, rather than just saying, oh, I couldn't stick to my diet, therefore I'm not good enough and I'm shit, a more helpful way of looking at it would be intentional reflection. All right, why didn't I stick to my diet and what can I do differently? Because a lot of people have, again, this comes back, there's many layers to this, and it comes back to things like the all or nothing mentality that people have too. If you have an all or nothing mentality, then as soon as you fail, it's like, cool, or as soon as you don't stick to it, cool, I've completely failed the diet, it's completely over, it's done. Whereas I keep telling people, I'm like, it's a battle of days and weeks and months. It's not a battle of 1 or 2 meals. One of my guys messaged me the other day and he said, cool, I've got, 3 solid days, 3 good days in a row so far. I'm like, cool. Awesome. That's great. And let's keep that going. Let's make it a week. 3 good days doesn't give you the result, but 7 days, 12 days, 14 days, that's going to start to get you in the right direction. Then, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you string those all together without too many hiccups in the way, then you get the result. But the hiccups are a part of the journey too, because the hiccups help us figure out what works and what doesn't. If you don't take time to reflect, and this is a question I ask a lot of the new dads that come on board, it's like, well, what have you done in the past? If you've lost weight and you put it back on again, what worked for you losing weight? And what do you think didn't work for you that caused you to put it back on? And for a lot of people, it was the sustainability of the diet. And it was, all right, well, I was so focused on just losing the weight that I did whatever random shit my friend told me to do. I did the ultra low carb, I did the keto, I did the carnivore. And it's like, well, that's nice, all well and good. But then you go to a pasta restaurant and they're not going to serve you, steak with beef tallow and butter on the side. It's like, oh, fuck, that's a little bit there. That doesn't fit in my diet. You have a little bit of pasta and then you're like, oh no, I've blown it and I'm going to eat everything in sight. There's many reasons why we have this mentality, but the main core one for me is that we don't take the time to adequately reflect on why we made the choices that we did and why we got the results that we did. We focus on the fact that we got the results, but we don't focus on how did we get there, right? What was the keys? What was the mentality that we needed to take on board? What were the learnings that we needed to learn in order to get to that point? Right? What were the decisions that we made that really helped us get along there? It's all about the iteration and the progressive learning, and the progressive learning and the progressive iteration can only come with intentional reflection. To have intentional reflection, you also need to have some kind of space for intentional reflection, right? Which is kind of the hard one for a lot of dads. As I'm obviously figuring out, having now 2 kids, one 5-week-old and one 2-year and 1 month old now. It's difficult to have the space, to find the space to do that. But it's incredibly important if you have anything that is worth working on or achieving. And this also includes your relationship. And this is something that people don't do enough of too. Intentional reflection on your relationship. Hey, how did today go? There was a bit of a blow up, right? I didn't handle that as good as I could. How can I handle it better next time? Think about the way that we parent our kids. We don't just tell them, like, if they do something wrong with riding their bike, we don't just say, oh, well, you messed that one up. Either do it the same way or just give up, right? We don't tell them that. We say, all right, cool. What didn't go well there? All right, you took your eyes off the road, right? You took your eyes off the prize. You looked behind at me and you fell down, right? So maybe next time we keep our eyes forward. We are constantly focusing on keeping our kids focused on what to do, right? Well, hey, what is it? And this is shown time and time again to be really effective. If you haven't heard of it, direct your kids towards what you want them to do, rather than saying just don't do that, because it leaves them like, well, fuck, what am I meant to do? So, you put it's a bums on the ground, right? It's something that teachers say a lot. It's like, oh, it gives me something to do, rather than stop running around. It's like, okay, well then what am I meant to just stand still? Kids don't do that. We want to treat ourselves the same way. Let's analyze. All right, what did we do? What did we do poorly? What can we do differently? What do we need to be doing differently in order to get the result that we want? But that only comes with some really intentional reflection. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. As long as you can give it is awesome. But even 5-10 minutes. Think about, think about talking with your wife or your partner at the end of the day and going, hey, how did we do today? How did we handle today? Did we handle it well? There were these issues. My wife and I literally had this conversation today. It was a bit of a later morning because she was up quite late with our littlest one, and he was struggling to go back to sleep. He was just wide awake and didn't want to go to sleep. He's finally waking up. And so she was up from 2 till 3:30 trying to settle him and do all that kind of stuff. And of course I was passed out. So by the time he woke up again for a feed at 5:30, she was dead tired. So she asked me, cool, can you take him and then, try and get him to sleep out there? And I was like, cool, got him to sleep out here, and then managed to give her a bit of an extra time to sleep. But because she had that extra time in the morning to sleep, she came out while our daughter was having breakfast, and then things were just a little bit more chaotic in the morning. She wasn't able to get herself ready. She didn't have that time. And it was just the learning of, and one of the other things was I forgot to put the dishwasher on the night before. So that meant that we weren't able to just to put the dishes away in there. It meant the kitchen got cluttered, all of those little things. So we just had a little check-in. It's like, hey, a couple of the things that didn't work about this morning. Obviously, her needing sleep is important, but for her, it was like, all right, we need to adjust and potentially get up and do a few more things, or maybe I get up earlier if I am having to sleep in, getting up at 7 instead of 7:30, so that I can take advantage of the time where he's still asleep and he doesn't need a feed, and and Imi is occupied. All of those things this was like a 2-minute conversation, but it was a good reflection point for us to make sure that we're on top of some of those things. And it's a very powerful process for your diet and for your food choices as well. I've had this conversation a bunch of times with my guys. Hey, you had a few extra drinks than you wanted to. Why did that happen? Right? And there are times where it's like, hey, I'm going into this weekend, and one of my guys is like, hey, I don't drink a lot, but I know that this weekend I'm going to drink a bottle of rum. That was one of the things he said to me. I was like, cool. Can you drink it with Coke Zero instead of full sugar Coke? And he was like, yeah, you know what? I can do that. I was like, cool. Damage mitigation at this point. It's like, and if you know that's what you're going to do, and you've accepted that that's what you're going to do, or what you want to do in essence, and you might be one of those people that's cool. I don't drink much, but when I do, I have a big night 2 or 3 times a year, and that's it. Cool. That's not going to affect your results crazily in the long term, right? It's going to affect you in the short term, and knowing it's coming up means that you can plan for it, right? The opposite number of the coin to that intentional reflection is intentional planning. And a lot of people set a plan, right? They set a rough plan, and then if it doesn't go to plan, they just go, oh, cool, I'm going to set the same plan again next week, and I'll just try and hit it. right? It's like you're setting yourself a goal, a target at work and not hitting it, and then just go, cool, well, my goal is the same target next week. And we used to do this. I used to do door-to-door sales for a while, right? I know, don't hate me. But it was when I was a bit younger, I went through the process of doing door-to-door sales or selling car wax. And everyone's goal for the day would be the same, to sell $500 worth of product, because that meant you got to ring the bell, and that meant you got like $100 in commission or whatever it was. It was fucking abysmal. But by doing that, it was like, all right, every single day that was the goal, but there was never really any time for reflecting on, hey, why didn't I feel like I hit that number? Why didn't my conversions of, this to this to this go through or whatever? It's like, well, it turns out people don't want to talk to you, but whatever. By not having that reflection, everyone was just setting the same goals and just kind of going through the motions. And we do this a lot with our health and fitness too. We struggle to go, all right, well, I didn't stick to it this week. I'm going to stick to it. I didn't stick to it last week. I'm going to stick to it this week. How? Why? What are the differences? What are the things you struggled with previously? And what are the things you're going to do differently this time? That's a big thing for a lot of people. They don't take that time to do. And that is probably the biggest learning that you can do. You learn more from your mistakes and your errors and your mess ups than you do from nailing everything perfectly every time, because you never have to go through the trials and the tribulations. You never have to figure out what doesn't work. As Thomas Edison said, he didn't fail to invent the light bulb 500 times. He just found 500 ways that didn't work, but he had a goal and he continued to pursue it. And he found, okay, cool, this doesn't work, so I know not to do that. Same thing for you guys, right? It might be, hey, I know that if I get to Friday afternoon and if I don't have a snack with me to have on the way home, like a piece of fruit, an apple or a banana or something, and on the way home I get hungry, I find it really hard not to just go past the drive-thru and get something shit. So I got to make sure I have my snack with me, or I've got to make sure that I'm choosing a better option when I'm going through the drive-thru. All of these are manageable things, but they only come with some intentional reflection. And you can only intentionally reflect if you're aware of the shit that you're doing. So it's time to just start being aware of, where am I at with my results? We're about halfway through November now. The weather is warming up. Summer's coming. It's going to make everyone start to consider, all right, where is my body at? Is it where I want it to be? Well, first of all, we should have been considering this probably 3 months ago if you wanted a summer body. Summer bodies are built in winter. It's what they always say. But if it is a process you're wanting to get started with, you need to start to dedicate some time and some thought to it. And you need to start to be aware of, where is my energy going when it comes to my health and fitness? What are the easy wins that I need to focus on? What is the progress that I actually want to make? And am I on track for that? Now, a lot of that is obviously can be handled by a coach. How much weight you're losing? Are you on track? Are you off track? Do your targets need to be adjusted? Do your calories need to be adjusted based on the results that you're getting? All of those variables can be managed by someone else for sure. But the only person that can really reflect on their effort is you. And the effort and the minimizing the amount of effort that you need to put in order to succeed is vital. So it's like, by default, parking a bit further away and walking to the train station versus driving all the way up to the train station, right? That's a behavior you can just make a default. It's not a huge one. It's not like, it's a lot easier than saying I've got to go out for a 15-minute walk, because you could just park further away and go for that walk as part of your daily routine. So all of these different things that you can start to incorporate come from reflecting, come from intentionally reflecting and going, what has my week been like? What have been the big things in my week that I need to do better at? What did I do well, first of all, because you want to continue to do the things that you did well. And what can I improve on? What are the stretches? What are the areas where I can do better? All right, I intended to go for a run at this time and then it didn't happen because of this and this. All right, cool. Well, if that's a continuing problem where you can't go for a run after work or go to the gym after work, cool. We need to either start to go to the gym before work, or we need to make the sessions that you're doing shorter, or we need to do something different, take some dumbbells, have some dumbbells at home or whatever that you can just smash something out with. Finding the solution and looking for the solution, because a lot of people, if they think they can't do a plan, and I've had people message me this, where they go, I've kind of gone a bit off track. I don't think the program's for me. It's like, no, the program is a adaptable process. It is like any program should be adaptable. If you've got a coach who's telling you, cool, this is the way you have to do it, they're not the best coach for you. A program needs to be adaptable. And obviously it can't be adaptable to the point of, I want to eat KFC and drink beer every day and still lose weight. You can't have beer and zingers every night. You might be able to have two beers and 2 zinger burgers a day, and that might be your diet for fat loss, but that's not going to be very filling. So it's not that you can do anything, but your program should be adaptable. But you should also be willing to adapt. You're needing to adapt to your program. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing, but it's going, hey, what can I do to make this work, rather than just going, oh, it doesn't work. It must not work for me. I'm destined to not lose weight, or I'm destined to be fat, whatever. It's like, no, that's complete bullshit that you're telling yourself to avoid having to put in that little bit of extra effort to get the fucking result. Because at the end of the day, you're worried about, well, what if I don't get the result? What if I put in the effort and I fail? And then it's going to make me feel, it comes back to this, make me feel like I'm not good enough, or make me feel like a failure and something like that. And you know what? We've all felt that way in some way, shape, or form. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be your reality forever, and it doesn't have to be the thing that stops you from getting started, because with any good plan, you just keep adjusting until it hits the result, until you get the result you want. You just keep adjusting it. That's it. It's as simple as it needs to be. You just keep making the changes you need to make. And as it comes to a point where it's like, cool, I've had clients who've done this too. So me losing that extra 5 kilos isn't worth what I actually have to physically do to get there. Or they don't have the time to get the steps in for whatever reason, obviously responsibilities as a dad and working and stuff like that. I get too hungry and I can't deal with the low enough calories. So it's like, cool, those hurdles are too big for you to jump over to lose that extra last 5 kilos, right? And that's a decision that you can make if you know what your result is and if you know what your plan is. That's all that it takes. It's just that level of awareness, that intentional reflection. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, if you want to have a chat and see if we can help you get from where you are to where you want to be, we can have a chat about what that plan looks like for you. And then you can make the decision of, cool, is that reasonable enough for me to put the effort in to get the result that I want? Head to fit-dad.club, book in a call, and we'll have a chat to you and see if we can help you. So happy November, coming into December. Christmas is coming. We should be back with Trav hopefully next week, where we're all on the same page once I'm getting back into my routine. But I'm looking forward to chatting to you guys soon. If you have any questions or any ideas for podcast topics, feel free to drop them either on our Instagram, DMs, comment them on YouTube, do whatever you want to do. Leave us a review. Hopefully this helped. So chat to you all next week. Peace out, dads.